the United States of America is facing an emergency tonight. And no, it is not the emergency of the clock ticking to midnight without legislated funding for the American government. We've seen that clock tick to midnight before on nights like this. The emergency the United States of America is facing tonight is an emergency the United States of America has created for the world. And that emergency is that the President of the United States, in his public appearance today, proved that he is mentally incapable and emotionally incapable of fulfilling his constitutional duties as President of the United States. In other words, there is no President of the United States as we knew it. There is no functioning intelligence, no functioning judgment mechanism within the mind of the current holder of the title, President of the United States. And that person is also the holder of the nuclear codes that could destroy the planet in seconds. And he is, much to the horror of the commanding officers of the American military who listened to him today, the commander-in-chief of the most powerful military in the history of the world. Much of the news media made the mistake of believing that all of the American commanding generals and admirals were being summoned to Quantico, Virginia, to listen to the small man of small experience who is currently the Secretary of Defense. That was obviously a fraudulent reason for demanding that all the generals and admirals fly from all over the world, leaving their command posts, to listen to a speech. It was obviously always just a setup for Donald Trump to harangue that audience with what turned out to be stream of consciousness madness, complete with hallucinations and an endless stream of pathological lies. A group of officers who earned their jobs in ways that Donald Trump never could, had to sit there and listen to a clown who stood before them in what appears to be a homemade brew of orange makeup slathered all over his face because he thinks it makes him look better. And I guess maybe we should accept Donald Trump's judgment about that one thing, that the madman orange makeup he slathers on himself makes him look better. Maybe it does. We don't know. Maybe the actual sight of the actual color of his 79-year-old skin is much worse than the orange clown confection that he chooses, but we don't know. Or maybe the orange junk on his face is yet another proof that the man has no capacity to make a judgment about anything, including the way he looks, never mind nuclear weapons. What was he thinking backstage when his Secretary of Defense, who had to promise to stop drinking to get confirmed by the Senate, insulted all of the commanding officers in the room with this kind of idiocy?
It's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are.
Okay, Pete, how about fat presidents? How about a president who has been fat every day of his political career? Is that a bad look? All of those generals can button their uniform jackets. All of those admirals can, every one of them. So there's the Secretary of Defense, who may or may not be managing his reported drinking problem, telling all of those commanding officers that they better never look as bad as Donald Trump, who can't even button his suit coat jacket. There was some suspense in the room today when Donald Trump was giving his speech. There was no suspense about would he cross the line that you never cross with the military as president and get political. Everyone knew he was going to do that. Everyone knew that he doesn't know there's a line. Everyone knew he was going to foolishly waste the admirals and generals' time telling them about how many swing states he won. And of course he did. The suspense in the room was whether the very, very tired, almost sleepy 79-year-old man at the microphone was going to make it through that 1 hour and 11-minute speech. And there were times in the middle of a sentence that it would seem like he just might drop right there, might not even finish that sentence. And what he seemed to be showing to the generals and the world is that he might not have the physical strength to make it through the 3 years, 3 months, and 20 days left of his presidency. Is that what has given J.D. Vance such a spring in his step lately? Is that why the vice president looks so happy these days? Donald Trump has never looked physically weaker or wearier than he did today. Weaker in every sense of that word, physically, mentally. Because Donald Trump is uneducable. He still doesn't understand why he walked into a room of military commanders today and faced silence.
Thank you very much, Pete. Great job you're doing, too. Fantastic job. I've never walked into a room so silent before. This is very... Don't laugh. Don't laugh. You're not allowed to do that. You know what? Just have a good time. And if you want to applaud, you applaud. And if you want to do anything you want, you can do anything you want. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank. There goes your future. But you just feel nice and loose, okay? Because we're all on the same team. And I was told that, sir, you won't hear a murmur in the room. I said, we got to loosen these guys up a little bit. So you just have a good time.
He didn't loosen them up. They didn't have a good time. They didn't applaud. Politely applauded only at the end. Donald Trump lied to the commanders repeatedly, and they knew it. He told them Ukraine is the worst war since World War II. Everyone sitting in that room knows that the war Donald Trump avoided by getting a doctor's excuse, the Vietnam War, which in Vietnam is correctly called the American War, killed over 4 million people. It was in what was then South Vietnam, North Vietnam, and as the United States spread the war into Cambodia and Laos, the war across those borders was much worse than what you're seeing in Ukraine. And he insulted the commanders with his lies about war. He told them that Portland, Oregon, quote, looks like a war zone. Spoken by someone who has no idea what a war zone looks like. Everyone in his audience knows what a war zone looks like. Everyone in his audience today knew that Donald Trump was lying. Donald Trump was telling the kind of lie that should concern his doctors and his family when he said Portland looks like a war zone. He hallucinated dialogue that has never happened. And his 79-year-old brain cells couldn't find words that were right there, just out of reach, like this.
The Iran nuclear power, the Iran, all of the great power that we thought existed, we blew it out to kingdom. We took advantage of it.
We blew it out to kingdom. Of course, what he wanted to say was, we blew it out to kingdom come. That is the phrase he grew up with. That is the phrase he has known most of his life. But that word combination is lost to his failing brain now. And there is also the possibility that his failing brain thinks that he actually did say kingdom come when he only said kingdom. Because that's the way brain failure works. And an obviously unhealthy 79-year-old man struggling and failing to make sense about anything. Generals flew across oceans, admirals crossed the world to come and listen to the most ridiculous person who has ever stood before them to discuss walking downstairs.
We were not respected with Biden. They looked at him falling downstairs every day. Every day the guy's falling downstairs. He said, it's not our president. We can't have it. I'm very careful, you know, when I walk downstairs, like I'm on stairs, like these stairs, I walk very slowly. Nobody has to set a record. Just try not to fall, because it doesn't work out well. A few of our presidents have fallen, and it became a part of their legacy. We don't want that. You walk nice and easy. You don't have to set any record. Be cool. Be cool when you walk down, but don't bop down the stairs. So one thing with Obama, I had zero respect for him as a president, but he would bop down those stairs. I've never said, da-da-da-da-da-da, bop, bop, bop. He'd go down the stairs, wouldn't hold on. I said, it's great. I don't want to do it. I guess I could do it. But eventually, bad things are going to happen. And it only takes once.
Imagine crossing 10 time zones to hear that. This is an emergency for the United States of America and the world. And those generals and admirals know that. They know that their commander-in-chief is lost. They saw him today. They listened to him today. And it was unlike anything they have ever listened to before in their lives. It is much worse than the first version of Donald Trump they saw in his first term as president. What they saw was something much worse than a president falling downstairs, and they all know it. They were forced to listen to the most ignorant man in the room tell them that he is the first person in the world to figure out how to stop wars.
The Department of War, I love the name. I think it's so great. I think it stops wars. The Department of War is going to stop wars.
He believes it. Imagine standing, talking to graduates of West Point, graduates of Annapolis, graduates of the Air Force Academy, and telling them that the name Department of War, which is still not the legal name of the Defense Department, will stop wars. No one in that room has ever heard a stupider statement in their lives. They know the president is not well. He looked and sounded physically drained today. He also sounded deranged and was hallucinating. And the military commanders in that room today all have to be wondering tonight just how much more dangerous their jobs are now, that they've just seen how lost and sick their commander-in-chief is. Donald Trump complained to his military audience today that people make up things that he says.
And it's hard. You know, they make up a statement and they said, you say it. We had 25 people that said he never said that.
Donald Trump actually complained to that military audience today that people make up things that he says. And he said that the day after he completely made up words to put in Chuck Schumer's mouth through AI that he then posted on social media around this time last night. Completely changing through AI the words that Chuck Schumer said after meeting with Donald Trump in the White House. And in that AI video, Donald Trump made Chuck Schumer almost as profane as Donald Trump is publicly, which, of course, you know is not Chuck Schumer. Donald Trump used manipulated video. He falsely dressed the Democratic leader of the House of Representatives, Hakeem Jeffries, in a Mexican sombrero. No Democrat has ever done that to Donald Trump. It is inconceivable that a president of the United States would put out a fake video of the Senate minority leader and the House minority leader. That would not happen, could not happen. But because Donald Trump has lost his mind and Republicans in Congress accept that Donald Trump has lost his mind, the Republican Party cheers on his public madness. And because not one Republican found fault with the ugly and insane video that Donald Trump posted last night, he has decided to create and post another one tonight. And this one includes me. It's a clip of this program last night of Hakeem Jeffries responding to the racist video that Donald Trump created about him last night. And this one tonight is another demonstration of the depths of Donald Trump's depravity, his perversity, a deep and unyielding perversity beyond anything we have ever seen in American politics. The President of the United States is now a weary, snarling viper of political perversity, and every commander in the American military has now seen that and knows that.